Odd Podcast.
We're back. Episode 2. Hello. Welcome to the Feraly Odd Podcast with me, Shane McMullen, Feral's frontman, and your host. Well, thanks so much for being here. What can we say? If you're watching this, it means that you're very kind and you've signed up to the Patreon. Like I said in the first episode, that would be the only public one. So yeah, thank you so much for doing that and joining up to hear what we have to say. This is going to be a little more in depth. I think the first one was it was a lot of admin. It was a lot of like, here's the plan, here's what we're going to do, here's the way we want things to go. This one's a lot more like what I think I want the podcast to be. More sort of talking memories, talking things that we're up to, things like that. So yeah, you're very, very welcome. And again, thank you so much for supporting us and signing up for the Patreon. We're going to do our best to like put loads of like pretty cool sort of exclusive content up there because yeah, you deserve it for parting with your hard-earned cash. This episode 2, is going to be all about the Atlantic Bar, which I don't know if it will have shut down by the time this comes out or it is shutting down currently. So we were involved in a gig a couple of... When the fuck would that have been? Nearly a month ago now. A sort of farewell show, sort of wrapping up the bar, and for everybody that kind of grew up with it and has played it over the years. We were so blessed to be included in the lineup. It was us, a band I really love from around here called Dugout. They don't play that much, but they're fucking great. You know, we had Friends and Problem Patterns, Brand New Friend, and So I Watch You From Afar were headlining. What a treat. What a treat to be involved in it. It fucking... We were so lucky to get added to it because we knew the bar was shutting down and we've just been so busy with other things and stuff that's not like gigs and not even thinking about that. We sort of thought we'd missed the boat because we were like, we should get like a show and like a kind of farewell thing, and you know, it got like mid-March maybe, or it got like maybe mid-February, and we were like, oh, I think we might have like left it too long because all the weekends were like booked up. And then out of nowhere, we sort of got the call. They were like, hey, you want to open the show and all this sort of shit. So yeah, we jumped on, we got a little set together, little 30-minute classics, a couple of new ones, and yeah, we went down to it. I'm so sorry if you weren't able to come because of tickets and things like that. We got like a lot of messages on the day, the weeks leading up to it, what was going on with it. We had no idea. It was hard enough to even get like our significant others in. So yeah, I'm really sorry if you weren't able to make it to it. I hope it's not too sickening me talking about how great of a night it was, but it was strange because it felt like super exclusive as well. I've never been a part of a gig that's been so like sought after, and to sort of like start the night off was like, yeah, it was a real blessing. We were on so early. I've also never been involved in a gig where all the equipment has been as nice as it was. The guys in and so were, you know, kind enough. Sorry, I'm hitting the mic again. Professional. The guys in and so were like really, really kind as to let us use, you know, their drum kit and like a big fucking beast of a bass amp, and you know, everything sounded fucking incredible. And it was just such a breeze. I've never been more nervous for a show. We haven't played in like a long time. And yeah, to open something like that was fucking shit scary. The last gig we did was in the Atlantic. It was at Christmas, and they ended up having like a fucking there's one night of the year where a bunch of people I used to go to school with, they sort of get together and they do like their annual bar crawl around Portrush, and it usually finishes up in the Atlantic. We were playing the same night as the bar crawl, so all our friends were coming down, and a few of them made it down, a few of them were still at the bar before. Thank the Lord that they didn't all make it in time, because we were bad. Like, this was a bad fucking show. We were just plagued by like technical difficulties, and Sam's guitar like broke the second last song. We had to just cut the set short. We all left immediately afterwards. We couldn't even face like talking to our friends after it because we were like so embarrassed, and it sort of left kind of sour taste in our mouth, because that could be the last gig that you ever play in this bar. So to get this opportunity, we sort of were like, right, this has to go well, because it's been such an influential bar on so many people's lives and on our lives as well. So we ended up we were starting, I think we went on at like 7:45, which is almost fucking, that's an insanely early time to go on for like a local show. That bar stays open until like 2 a.m. We played there before, or you haven't been going on till like after midnight. So we were really expecting a sort of friends and family crowd of about like sort of 20 people as they're sort of filtering in. The place was rammed whenever we started. I was getting a fucking dry mouth, the little like adrenaline shaky hand kind of thing. We were playing a couple of new songs as well, and we brought back Brendan Rodgers for the start. We've kind of rejigged it. Every time we play a show, someone comes up and complains as to why we don't play it anymore. It's really hard to fucking play. It's really difficult. There's a lot of lyrics. It's just too long as well. When we wrote it, we were younger. It's too long of a song. So we've sort of rejigged it a little bit. It sounds really great now. We opened with it, and and then settled into it really quickly. The crowd was so responsive. It was just all our friends. The night was amazing, and it was sad. It was really sad as well. After we played, everybody was super kind and with their words, and if we got a chance to speak to you that night, like, I was just in a daze the rest of the night. Hung out by the window and just watched people come and go. I love people watching. I'm like, just to watch people interact. And I was driving, so I had a drink before we went on stage, so I was pretty coherent the whole night. And it was sad towards the end because the place was fucking busy. It's the busiest I've seen it in a long time. And listening to these bands that you kind of like grew up with, and bringing the night and the sort of the era of the bar to a close was sad. And it's like, how can you close something down that's been such a haven for new music and a very particular sound that comes out of that North Coast area? And it's a shame that it has to go. Well, to be honest, it doesn't have to go. I still don't understand why it is going, but the truth is it doesn't have to go, and it's a fucking shame that it is. Stevie, who runs it's he's created a really beautiful bar, and has probably sort of been the cause of a lot of great music coming out of Northern Ireland, because he gave them the chance, and he gives young bands the chance. And Bo, who does sound as well, is the most underrated sound man I think I've ever worked with. He's like so kind, and he knows his shit, and he's always made everything sound great, and he always turns up. Everybody that's worked in that bar is a fucking gem. And I'm really sad to see it go. We just hung out, we played pool. On a lighter note, I've emerged champion from this night. I'll tell you why in a second. Me and Sam have this we have this sort of rolling game of pool going on. We don't need to keep score, because every single time we've played, he beats me, and I don't know how, because he's shite. But he gets in my head so fucking much. Every time we're in the Atlantic, we play. Every time we're at Belfast, we play. If there's a pool table, we play. He fucking beats me, and gets these like wee scabby chances and like flukes all these balls and stuff. Like there's a real rivalry going on there. It's good fun. And that last Farewell Atlantic show, that was the first ever time I beat him ever at pool, and it felt like very appropriate to just close the chapter on all of that, and to finally like put a bit of fucking domination on him. Like we played so many times as well since we were in our last band together as well. You know, we've known each other so fucking long. I can't believe I fucking beat him that time. So that was one of the many good things to come out of that night. But if you were there, you'll know what I mean. It was a very wholesome night, and I sort of thought on this episode too I would talk a little bit about it, but talk more about the bar in general and sort of some of the more ridiculous stories that we sort of have from it. So I've been thinking about them a little bit. So I never really like went out to drink. Well, I didn't drink. I drank first. I had my first drink when I was like 19. I was like a really late bloomer. I was like raised super religiously. And the story of how I drank for the first ever time, it was an accident. It was my friend's 20th, and he lived in Portrush, and we were all going out. I didn't drink. They were all getting fucking hammered. We got like takeout. I got like something really spicy. And they all went outside for a cigarette, and I was like finishing off my meal, and I was like, this is fucking sick. So spicy. Picked up my drink. I'm like, what the fuck? This tastes like different. Turns out I've been drinking the same thing as this other guy. It was boozy. My whole plan had been like, I think I'll like go through my entire life like never having tasted alcohol, and then as soon as I tasted it, I was like, well, that's that plan fucked, so I might as well drink now. Everybody fucking went mental. Like this was my whole thing. I never drank, so everybody, we get to the Atlantic, everybody's like, buy me drinks. Like we get hammered. Like we get fucked up. I think I get bought more drinks than him because it's such like this massive deal that I like wasn't not drinking anymore. And it was just it was such a fucking wholesome, ridiculous night. We were around the pool table. I want to talk about the pool there because we used to have this rule. I don't know, maybe other people do it as well. Maybe this is a thing, that if like you get whitewashed, you're like trousers down, one time around the pool table, a little lap of honor. So we would enforce this like a lot, and it didn't matter how many people were in the bar, if you knew them or not. And we've had a couple of fucking whitewashes on the go as well. It's always a great time. Like the little sweaty palms come in. Like if you've ever been in the actual, not the sort of venue area, but the sort of old man bar beside it, like the kind of hit the mic more, man. Jesus, professional. If you've been in the kind of like little dive bar bit at the side, really intimate, like claustrophobic, under the stairs, there's like a pool table. It's like just slightly too close to the walls. You play there, you get people lined up, you know, all around the walls, like people jeering and booing and stuff like that. We've had some like epic bouts in there. Like it's really, I think back to like some of those nights. It's always over winter as well. The bar always really, it was great for us because, you know, it's less of a tourist town in the winter. So we were ending up sort of going there, real like wind and rain and getting in, and the fire's lit, and you would sit around the pool table and get mashed up, like, and then we'd all go home. And then you do the same thing the next night, and it was such a great way to like, you know, waste your sort of 20s, and, you know, it was such a nice bar for that. Obviously, it gave us the opportunity to like play shows and things like that as well. I remember the first ever, I talked about Dugout there a little bit. before, a couple of the guys in that band used to be in a band called Straight Laces, who I fucking love so much. Remember, it was like one of my first ever gigs that I ended up going to, like local shows. And I drove up, I was kind of friendly with Johnny, their bass player. And I don't know, I was maybe like 15, 16. And they were playing their last gig in the fucking Stiff Kitten. And I think it closed down like really soon after that. And he drove me up. We went up. It was him and his girlfriend and I think her brother and someone else. I think we all like headed up in the car. I'm like a good 4 or 5 years younger than all of them, at least maybe. And to the point where the security wouldn't let me like leave and then come back in when the show started. So I had to like stay there after the sound check and shit like that. So like I've always really loved like the music those guys make. So the first gig I think I ever like got into in the Atlantic was like Johnny's new band. I cannot fucking remember the name of it now, but I sort of seen him and he like invited me in. We were all under 18 as well, and like we was, you know, lucky enough to like get in and fucking see proper like DIY punky shows all down the stairs, and it makes you like want to be in a band and like do that kind of thing. Like, you know, whenever we find out like, you know, like bands like And So and Axis Of, whenever they have like, if a band had an album out and they were from here, it would be like, holy shit, you know, you can do it. Like you're able to fucking, you know, make a career of it, or, you know, be professional enough to have an album. And they all come through out the Atlantic Bar, and they're like some of my earliest memories of like seeing those bands in like such intimate locations. And then you get to play this stage, and then it becomes your local go-to, and then you see like the new generation of kids coming through with their bands playing it. And, you know, they've renovated that upstairs bar in the Atlantic and like up in the Dockers, and, you know, it's all painted black and it's like galaxy and fucking, you know, stars and shit all painted in it. They poured a load into like the PA and the light show. We had a night there. So if you know me, I probably have complained about like ankle problems to you personally, because I never shut the fuck up about it. My right ankle is bollocks, like, and it came from an injury at the Atlantic. Like I roll my ankles all the time anyway, but like in the Atlantic, this is really like the catalyst for why it's still bad to this day. I had a friend's band. They were playing their last show, and they sort of the band I had been in previous, we had done like a Killing in the Name cover, so original. And when we split up, we sort of passed it on to them. We were like, okay, yeah, you guys take this. And their whole plan was they were going to finish the set and they're going to fucking like ring out the fucking cymbals, and that would be their last song and it's their final gig. And then I would come on stage and we would do like Killing in the Name. I think I was drinking at this stage, and they would do these like shots of Buckfast for like £1. So you just give the bar guy like a fucking fiver and be like, put it all in one glass. And I was sitting like at the bar and chatting away, and fucking, you know, they finished their set and I was like, yeah, that was sick. And it's all shh, and everybody's like, woo. And then I remember I was like talking, and I was like, this fucking, they're ringing out this note, like they're milking the fuck out of this, like. And then someone ran over and they were like, they're calling you out. And I forgot that I had to do it, and I ran on stage. I'm hammered. We're doing the song. Right before the solo, I think I've rolled my ankle, and instead of fucking, I was trying to do some bullshit cool move or something, I roll my ankle, and instead of just falling over, I put all my weight on it to keep myself from falling down. And I fall into their guitarist, and my microphone cable gets like caught around his little tuning peg. He's trying to fucking do the solo, butchers it because of me. I have to untangle the thing. I'm like, fuck you, won't do it, you tell me. Like, in so much pain. It was awful. Finished the set. Then I remember that we were headlining, so then I had to play like fucking headliner on one foot essentially. And then afterwards I was like, I need to go back to your house, man. Like, we run back to my friends. they grab all my gear and stuff. My foot by this stage is so swollen. It's like that real like purpley black, kind of purple and black. That purple and black kind of like bruise, like real fucking bad. We like cut my laces off to get the shoe off. It was fucked. So like forever I'll have like an injury like I associate with the Atlantic. It's been a fucking, it's been such a riot. Like it's backcountry. I've always described it as like backcountry up here because like the police station's so far away, like, and it's such a wee small seaside town, so if something goes on in the bar, you're like, ooh, like, you know, we're in here and we're like 17 and we're seeing like these punk bands and stuff. Like it just ups that excitement for you. And even after lockdown, after COVID, we kind of came back and we did this sort of run of shows. And I remember it because we played sports club the night the legislation was changing. And what had happened was, at midnight, by law, you were allowed to then like stand up in a bar from midnight. It just changed automatically. Bullshit, like. So I remember we started that night, and the first two bands, I think we were on with SX70, and who was the second band? It was either Parker or Tramp. I think it was Parker. And everybody was seated in this fucking venue. And it's so difficult to get an atmosphere in a venue like that. And sort of halfway through our set, it became midnight, and we were like, okay, you guys can all like stand up now. And everybody stood up at the end, and it was totally fine. It's the same people who were in the bar. Everybody's just standing now and having a much better time. The next night we were in the Atlantic in Portrush. We were upstairs, and nobody gave a flying fuck. Like, nobody cared at all. No masks. Nobody got sick. All those shows we did, nobody got sick on them. We were super safe. But nobody cared up there. And it was just business as usual. And I remember me and Dan were doing the door. It's maybe one of the fun. It's the wildest. It might be the wildest gig we've ever played, because everybody had just been allowed back out of their house. And we were up in the top bar. Me and Dan were doing the door. And there must have been like a Northern Ireland match on or something. And we came up. They all came up, and like Dan's a fucking madman with like little fucking like cheeky deals at the door. And he was like, oh, how many are there? He's like, 5 are on the door. And he's like fucking, how many are you? And he's like, oh, 7 of us. And he's like, oh, okay, well, it's 5 for one. And he's like, oh, I'll do you a deal. It's like 35, for like all 7 of you. And the guy's hammered, and he's like, oh yeah, like fucking unreal, like pays everybody in. I thought they were gonna be a fucking nightmare, because like drunk older guys, football fans, they're just off the back of the win. A rock night, like we had no idea. They fucking loved it. They ate it up. Like they were mad guys. Like there was like a point, the oldest dude, he was pretty fucking old. Like he had to have been like mid-60s easily, and a real short guy. And he was like in front of the stage, he had his back to me, and he put his phone up like this, and I thought he was gonna get like a selfie. So I kind of like leaned down from the mic a little bit, and then flash went on out front, and he was taking a fucking picture of everybody in front of him, and I was like, oh, fucking so mugged off. They kept shouting like Green and White Army, and any time between songs you would just do that voice, and they'd be like, Green and White Army. There was a point where this old guy as well, he kind of, if you're not watching the video, I'll try and explain this the best I can, but the Atlantic kind of had a stage, and then it had a sort of squared PA, sort of cube boxes in front. And he obviously like he needed a little break, so he he was sort of leaning with his hands on the back, sort of perched on it and stuff. But he obviously was really feeling the music. So he, in the end up, he's like sort of like humping the air. He's sort of going like this. He's just like still trying to move. He's like just really gently back and forward. And he still had his like, he was turned round. He was like looking at us. He's sort of dry humping the air with his hand sort of back on this thing. Like, it was just fucking bananas. Like, it honestly, some of the shows there are like the most fun shows we've ever done. And they're ones that'll like stick in the back of my mind forever. Some of those brawl gigs, and you know, there's just such a like weird legacy with it, and yeah, it's really sad that it has to go, but there'll be other places that something else will pop up, and there'll always be space for like other DIY like punk venues, and you know, if you are in a band, and just keep an eye out for little places like that, because you know, it's only as good as like the bands you put on, and it's only as good as you make it as well. Like, if you come out and support these venues and, you know, put a lot of love into them and just stick with it as well, yeah, they can grow. They really can. And I mean, I doubt that Stevie's gonna join our Patreon, but if he ever does and he ever hears this, you know, he did such a fucking good job with that bar, and I don't think there's anybody in a band or anybody who ever went to that bar who wouldn't like applaud him for the effort and energy that he put into it. So yeah, it is going to be really missed. And same goes to Bo as well. He did sound for us when we were not good. We were not a good band, and he always put effort and energy into making sure we sounded good, and to try and teach us as well what we could do to make ourselves sound better. And yeah, he always showed up, and it's such a thankless job. So, you know, thank you to those guys for what they've done for the scene, and for all people trying to make a career out of music, and everybody else that worked in the bar as well. Like, it's a rough gig sometimes, so yeah, it will be really missed, and hopefully something comes in its place. But that's sad. That's sad. Let's do On Repeat now, okay? On Repeat. I'm trying to think. I'm recording I said I was gonna fucking do On Repeat. Like 2 days week on, like a week later. I'm recording these almost like back-to-back days. What have I been fucking listening to? Me and Dan got really into Ukrainian shit. I know that sounds weird, but it was before the war. Fucking hell, what a statement. We were like really into, Dan loves like black metal and things like that, and he showed me a lot of like sort of chamber choir, Ukrainian chamber choir, things like that. We used to go up there and like watch UFC Saturday night, and then Sunday morning we wake up, have a coffee, and put these things on. A lot of Orthodox chamber music, and that's so fucking weird, but it led us to a lot of good music, and there's a lot of sort of like folk melody in it. And there's a band that he showed me, I don't know how to pronounce it. I used to try and learn how to speak Ukrainian, and I should know how to pronounce this, but I think it's Drudka, Drudkh. They put out a new EP. They're all their stuff's on YouTube as well. Check them out, they're fucking mad. It's Ukrainian black metal, but it's all very like folklore. But they put a new EP out 2022. What's telling me here? It's called All Belong to the Night. A lot of the all the titles are in Ukrainian, but it's fucking really good. Just that gentle blast beat for like 10 minutes. Noise. That's been on repeat. That's a good one for like anytime I have to like drive anywhere and it's nighttime. Yeah, Drudka's on there. They're a great band. If you like that kind of music, if you don't, I don't know if you can train yourself to like it or not, but yeah, definitely check it out. That's my on repeat for this week. Obviously, I haven't had any sent in yet because these episodes have not been made public yet, but whenever they are made public, please do send in your on repeats, because I need stuff to talk about. Because like I said before, I'm listening to all of the same stuff that I've been listening to since I was like 15, so I have not grown as a person. I have not tried to grow as a person, so help me grow and be better. But yeah, that was this week's on repeat, Drudka. That's it for episode 2. I'm trying to keep these under half an hour. That's why I keep... Oh, it's 13:13. Make a wish. 1st of April. April Fools. Thank you so much for being a part of episode 2, and again for signing up to the Patreon. If you are signed up, tell your friends that it's well worth it and that this episode was a lot higher energy than the first one. I'm trying to keep these under half an hour, so it's just coming in your ears. Short and sweet. That's how we like it. Thanks so much for your continued support. Much love. See you on the next one, episode 3.